real butt of jokes in the NFL. Before 2017, they had 15 wins in the previous 5 years. Compare that to 2017, where they had almost five less, but still 10 wins in 1 year compared to 15 the previous 5. That's a mark of improvement right there, for one thing. And that is due in part to Tom Coughlin, who came in this year as the manager of the front, who was the vice president of football operations, who brought a level, and I don't know how many times I've said this on so many of the Blitz Zone episodes, but he brought a new culture of accountability, of hard work, fighting for every yard, and discipline that this team clearly was lacking. And the free agent pickups of A.J. Bowie to partner with Jalen Ramsey, the rookie cornerback, combined 10 interceptions. Then you bring in Calais Campbell to really be the front man, that defensive line, with Dante Fowler in his actual sophomore year, technically his third year, but the first year doesn't count because he had a torn ACL in training camp in 2015. But this year, he had a renaissance season. He had a great season. Yannick Ngakoue had a great year too. Malik Jackson as well, and Telvin Smith. This defense was transformative. They were second in the league in sacks, number 1 against the pass, giving up 169 yards. And you look at what they did, offensively too. Blake Bortles, there were weeks where he was great. He had a 3-week stretch in which he had 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then the last 2 weeks was the complete utter opposite, where he's throwing 3 picks and 2 touchdowns. Actually, 5 touchdowns, but still. He was Jekyll and Hyde, and that is the problem with him. Leonard Fournette was great. That was another great pickup right there in the draft, as well as Cam Robinson to be in the offensive line. But this team is a quarterback away from getting to the promised land. They have the pieces in place for next year, and a good receiver in D. Westbrook too, and Keelan Cole, and Allen Hurns, and Mercedes Lewis had a great season himself, the veteran of that roster. They just need the quarterback, and I don't think it's Blake Bortles, honestly. If you ask me or any Jacksonville Jaguar fan, I would not be surprised in the least if Tom Coughlin dips into the well of his old team and gets his old friend Eli to come to Northeast Florida. Hop, skip, and a jump, right? No. But let's see if that actually takes place. It would be remarkable if that were to happen. I don't know if it will, and it also predicates on the fact if Eli decides to come back for the 2018 season. He has 1 year left on his contract with the Giants. Who knows if he'll be back in blue and white or if he'll go down to play for the Jaguars. All remains to be seen. But congratulations to the New England Patriots. I know there are a lot of people who are not happy with some of those pass interference calls. But the second one that took place, that was completely warranted. That, even though it was an underthrown pass to Brandon Cooks, that was completely warranted. The first one with A.J. Bowie, that was complete utter bull, if you ask me. It was. That was not pass interference. That wasn't even catchable. So I can see why there are some people who have this sentiment that the NFL helps New England. When you see something like that, you can't help but think that way. Other than that, though, Jacksonville screwed themselves too. They did on several with some of those penalties, and especially on offense when they had a chance in the end of the first half. Had they not committed that delay of game penalty, this game would be a completely different story. And if they were able to capitalize after that Miles Jack turnover, they could have capitalized. The game would be different. So, yes, there were that one penalty that was New England's favor, fine. But the rest, that was all Jacksonville's fault right there with their name on it. They got to work on that for next season, but they had the team in place. Leonard Fournette is a great asset. Offensively, everything is good with the exception of Blake Bortles, and they have one of the best defenses. But the cover 3 against Tom Brady, just know next year, play a lot more man than cover 3, because cover 3 is that you're speaking Tom Brady's language right there. And by language, I mean his ability to read teams and play them like a fiddle with the cover 3. Just for next year, play a little more man than cover 3 against him. Now let's go to the NFC title game and the Eagles and how they trounced the Vikings at home. Well, the Vikings, of course, are coming off that magical 29-24 divisional round victory over the New Orleans Saints, which gave us one of the greatest, not just postseason plays, but one of the greatest plays in NFL history with Stephon Diggs' 61-yard touchdown reception with 10 seconds to go on 3rd and 10 with no timeouts. And I need a bit of a drink break. Refreshing. Now, as for this particular game right here, this is, with the Vikings having that victory, they won with all that momentum. Minnesota could have won this game, and I'll tell you why they lost. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, they're coming off their 15-10 victory over the Atlanta Falcons at home in the divisional round. It was a joke in the sense of stats for Nick Foles, where he had no touchdowns, yet he didn't turn the ball over. That game could have gone either way, especially at the end with Julio Jones, when the Falcons had a chance, 1st and goal at the Eagles 9, and decide to not run the ball the first 2 times, and then on 4th down, a really bad throw from Matt Ryan to Julio Jones, incomplete, turnover on downs, and Eagles win that game. Now the Eagles have to show their fans, yes, they are the underdogs, but also why they deserved to be in the Super Bowl this year. And they did that and then some. Let's go to the first drive of the game. Minnesota opens with a 75-yard, 9-play drive, culminating with a 25-yard touchdown pass to Kyle Rudolph. They're up 7-0. Then, unfortunately, Philadelphia is not able to capitalize on their ensuing drive. Minnesota gets the ball. They go 3 and out. Philadelphia went 3 and out. It goes 3 and out. Then Minnesota, right here on the next drive, they're going down the field with a chance to go up 14-0. And then Case Keenum decides to throw a terribly conceived pass that gets picked off by Ronald Darby, by Patrick Robinson, weaving his way to the left, down the left side of the field, cuts to his right, a block from Ronald Darby, and Patrick Robinson capitalizes on a 50-yard pick six, and the game is tied 7-0. This was the turning point right here, because had Minnesota not made that had Case Keenum not made that careless error like he did last week, he made an interception against the Saints, which precipitated that miracle touchdown. Had Keenum not made a mistake this week, especially on this drive, the Vikings could have won and been the first team ever to host the Super Bowl in their own stadium. And that still has not happened. We're going to have to wait to see if Atlanta next year can do that when Super Bowl 53 emanates from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, getting back to this game right here, Minnesota goes 3 and gets the ball back. They go 3 and out, unfortunately. Then Philadelphia gets a 12-play, 75-yard drive, which leads to the 11-yard touchdown run by LeGarrette Blount. They're up 14-7. And by the way, on the interception that Case Keenum made, Chris Long, the former Patriot from the Super Bowl 51 winning team, was responsible because he made that. He goes to the line of scrimmage and gets his hand on the left hand of Case Keenum on his throwing hand and disturbs his rhythm. And that right there played a monumental part in that interception taking place. All right, so going back to the Philadelphia drive, the 12-play drive, 75 yards, culminating with the 11-yard touchdown run by LeGarrette Blount, who was also, like Chris Long, on the Patriots squad from last year. Anyway, it's 3rd down from the Philadelphia 15. Case Keenum, with a chance to tie the game at 14 all, gets strip-sacked by Derek Barnett, the rookie Derek Barnett, and recovered by Chris Long. Only the second strip sack allowed by the Vikings this year. So on the ensuing drive, it's 3rd and coming up. The next drive down later in the game, it's 3rd and 10 for the Eagles at their own 47-yard line. Ball snapped to Nick Foles. He's about to get knocked down, throws a monumental 53-yard pass down the middle to Alshon Jeffrey, and they're up 21-7. Yep, 21-7. Then Elliott gets a field goal. It's 24-3. It's 24-7, Philadelphia. And on that drive, you had an 11-yard pass to Ajayi, 36-yard to Zach Ertz, and 13-yard to Ajayi again, culminating that field goal. And they're up 24-3 at the half. They scored most of their points in the second quarter, outscoring the Vikings 17-0. Then Torrey Smith gets in on the action with a 41-yard touchdown pass with double coverage. The fact that Zach Ertz played a part in this game, 8 receptions for 93 yards. At the end of the game, the Eagles defeat the Vikings 38-7. They are in their first Super Bowl since Super Bowl 39, when they lost by 3 points to the New England Patriots in Jacksonville. I remember that game because I won $75 in a Super Bowl pool with my frat brothers from Zeta Beta Tau when we were at one of my friends' house, John Parmo, and I won $75. I had 0-0 on the line, and it was 0-0 at the end of that first half. The last time I actually won any money during the Super Bowl. So maybe Lady Luck will strike twice again for me. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a great thing for them. They're hoping to win the first championship since 1960 when it was the NFL title. It was 7 years before the first Super Bowl ever took place. Now, as for the season for the Vikings, this was a remarkable year, too. The Vikings defense, ever since Mike Zimmer took over, has been a top 10 defense, especially this year with Everson Griffin, who could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate for the work he did on the defense. Anthony Barr, too, was remarkable as well. Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith in that secondary. Overall, just was a great defense, especially when it came to defending the run, number 2 in the league against the run, as opposed to the Eagles, who were the number 1 rushing defense in the league. So that was something right there. And then when Dalvin Cook went down with the ACL injury, the rookie running back out of Florida State, Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon both stepped up. And especially, what was paramount was McKinnon in this game played extremely well, was targeted a lot out of the backfield and during the season. And then Latavius Murray was great on the ground. So, and to see the renaissance year that Case Keenum had under Pat Shurmur's leadership as the OC, who now will be the Giants head coach, and to see him transform with 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions on the year, 67% completion percentage, all these numbers that he had for him, and the great receiving tandem of Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs together, whoever the quarterback is, that's the question that has to be answered by the Vikings. Are they going to bring back both Bridgewater and Keenum, because they're both free agents next year? And what will be the price for these guys? And who will be the starter? Or are they going to draft or go somewhere else? I think another thing they need to improve on, that's really the question, because I honestly think they have a good offensive line that was revamped from what they had in years past. And, I have to give Mike Zimmer a lot of credit. Now, who will be the next offensive coordinator? That's the other question, too, that has yet to be answered for the Vikings. But whoever it is, you got a good set of players on your offense right there. Congratulations to the Vikings on getting this far. But it's unfortunate to see a franchise that has not won a Super Bowl and yet hasn't been to one since they lost to the Oakland Raiders. That was when Kenny Stabler became the first left-handed QB in that particular game. And I remember, too, Blitnikoff was the MVP of that game as well. One of only 3 MVPs to win the MVP award in the Super Bowl and yet not have a single touchdown. Little interesting little fact right there. But as for the Vikings fan base, I really feel for them, and they were this close to seeing a Super Bowl in their home stadium. They have a good team for the future. I don't think Viking fans have anything to worry about for 2018. They're going to be in the conversation again for a postseason spot and for a Super Bowl appearance for next year. As for the Eagles, the season that they had with Carson Wentz mostly is what got them here. Nick Foles now has to right the ship and get them towards their destination, what could be their destiny, their first ever Super Bowl. And they have to beat the team that basically made sure the team that prevented them from doing it over 13 years ago. Will history repeat itself, or will history be written anew? Well, I'm going to next week, you have to tune in for my Super Bowl 52 special. I'm going to go in depth on both teams, how they got to the Super Bowl, what makes their offense and defenses so good, and the weaknesses that they have. We'll get into some Super Bowl history, favorite Super Bowl games, and at the very end of next week's show, I will give you my pick, and maybe I might have some co-hosts with me. We'll give our picks on who will be the recipient of Vincent Lombardi's trophy for Super Bowl 52, emanating from Minneapolis, Minnesota, U.S. Bank Stadium on Sunday, February 4th, with the game being broadcast on NBC. All right, so that's it for all the recapping talk. Now, as we know, this coming week is the Pro Bowl for the AFC and NFC, the annual All-Star Game that will take place for the second year in Orlando, Florida, at Camping World Stadium. And I'm not going to go through all the players because of the time limit that we have. But notably, we got Le'Veon Bell, who right now is close to contract negotiations with the Steelers for next year. He'll be an all-star for the AFC. And then you look at DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver from the Houston Texans, who led the league with 13 touchdowns. Then you have Travis Kelce, who unfortunately was a recipient of that nasty concussion in the wild card round game against the Tennessee Titans in the first half. I don't know if he'll be able to play, and honestly, if I were him, I would skip this game altogether and try to get better for next year. As for the defense, the Jaguars boast a lot of defensive players playing this game, so and it's not that far from Jacksonville, almost a homecoming for them. As for the NFC side of things, Todd Gurley, who could be the MVP, teaming up with the best tandem in the league in Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I can't wait to see what New Orleans does next year with these two together, and which is great for Drew Brees' arm, who had a record 72% completion, which isn't yet, again, an NFL record, but he had 300 plus less yards than he did in 2016. But that's a good thing because he's not going to be. It's not going to be relying on him throwing the ball constantly, 40, 50 times a game. And, and you look at the defense, offensive line, you have three Dallas Cowboy players in Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and, and Tyron Smith. Hopefully Dallas next year will overcome, the deficiencies that they had towards the end of the season, and that was also due in part to the suspension of Ezekiel Elliott. Let's see what he does next year. And I'm surprised that not shocked that he didn't get a pick because after all what happened towards him this year. All right, but overall, Julio Jones had yet another great season too, and Kyle Rudolph, one of the most underrated tight ends, another great year for him as well. Congratulations to all the players selected, some that I didn't announce, but congratulations to all the players on the AFC, NFC side on offense, defense, and special teams. And just have some fun and don't hurt each other, and which I think they won't because they all realize that this is not a game that we really want to hurt ourselves. This is just, for fun, entertainment, and because we all have careers and we want to look forward to 2018. So don't expect too many hard hits. It'll be competitive, but not competitive to the point where they're gonna really put their bodies on the line and hurt their careers and their contracts and anything and the prospect of their future in the NFL. So don't expect any of that to happen. But it will be a high-scoring game as they usually are. You look at the NBA All-Star Game. The only one that you never see a high-scoring game, of course, is the MLB All-Star Game. That's probably the most competitive, even though this past year they took away the right of the winner to host the World Series, but it still is competitive. Always has, of all the major sports. Now let's go into the Grammys. Entertainment Sunday, of course, from New York City. The big 60th Grammy Awards are coming. The Recording Academy and all the best artists in different genres will be performing all the biggest chart-topping numbers, surprise appearances. Usually on Grammy night, that's the night when fans are shocked, wowed, and are stunned, and in so many positive ways of what you're going to see on stage. It's a great night. It is a great night. And all the awards, there's way too many of them, probably the most of any of the major awards that take place during award season. But what they like to do is during the commercial breaks, they'll announce who won for this specific category. The ones they leave out are, rock album of the year, pop album of the year, which Ed Sheeran, I think, will win for Divide. I'm surprised that didn't even get nominated for album of the year. I'm a little upset about that. But that's, hey, it's not nominated this year, but, I love Ed Sheeran. He's one of my favorite artists. I hope I can get tickets to that September concert at MetLife Stadium, but who knows. Now, let's go to the awards, the major ones. Best New Artist, Alessia Cara, Scars to Your Beautiful, one of my favorite songs of the year. DJ Khaled. Oh, I love his song that he does with Rihanna, Wild Wild Thoughts, and then Lil Uzi Vert, Julia Michaels, and you have SZA. So congratulations to all of them. I'm thinking this is going to go DJ Khaled. I really believe he's going to win. With all the innovative songs that he came out for this year, I think he's the best new artist of the 5. Song of the year, Despacito. Despacito. Din, din, din. I'm not going to say the rest because I am not good with the Spanish, but it's one of the probably the most transcendent song of the year, and it's one of the most entertaining and great songs to get you excited, dance, or when you're in the car on your way to work, wherever. It's a good song to listen to. From Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, Reggaeton, and of course Justin Bieber. Jay-Z with the 444, Issues by Julia Michaels, 1-800-273-8255, Logic, Alessia Cara, and DJ Khaled being a part of this song, which is the number for the suicide hotline. This song right here, if you listen to the lyrics, I don't want to be alive. This song did a lot for people who are going through this terrible situation of wanting to take their own lives. And this was a great message song to have people who are feeling this way to call this number, seek help. In fact, the numbers, this hotline doubled in the volume of people calling them because of this song. So Logic not only came out with a really important song, but he may have just saved so many lives in the process. So I'm really liking this song. And then That's What I Like by Bruno Mars, very entertaining too. If I had to pick song of the year, I think Despacito is going to probably end up winning, but possibly 1-800-273-8255, So congratulations to those songs nominated for that category. Then Album of the Year, Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino. Childish Gambino, for those people who don't know, is the alter ego character or artist name for Donald Glover. Donald Glover, of course, is the actor, director, producer. He is the guy who wrote and created the hit show on FX Atlanta. He was in The Martian last year, too. That was nominated for Best Picture. And he's really he's a creative genius in every way, shape, and form. And this is yet another part of his genius emanating with this album. So, and then you have Jay-Z, nominated for the most awards this year. I believe it was 9 Grammys, if I'm not mistaken. Then you got Damn by Kendrick Lamar, Melodrama by Lorde, and 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars. I'm going to be honest, I think it's going to go to Bruno Mars for 24 Karat Magic. Record of the Year, Redbone by Childish Gambino, Despacito, Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, Justin Bieber, The Story of O.J. from the 444 album by Jay-Z, Humble, Kendrick Lamar, and 24 Karat Magic, Bruno Mars. And I think Despacito, in the end, is going to win Record and Song of the Year. I cannot wait to see the performances. If you want to see if my predictions are right, watch the 60th Annual Grammy Awards this Sunday, January 28th, from Madison Square Garden, on a special 7:30 p.m. time on CBS Channel 2. And this past Tuesday, we also saw the announcement for the Academy Awards. 9 films were nominated, from Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and, of course, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I'm so happy for Greta Gerwig to get a Best Director nomination. I would have also liked to have seen another lady get nominated too, Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman, one of the most highly successful films from 2017. But I'm also happy for another. But you know what? Congratulations to Greta Gerwig. I thought Lady Bird was a fantastic coming-of-age story. As for Jordan Peele, for the film that made us all have the conversation on race, Get Out, which was a conversation and / horror film, first-time director. It was, in fact, first film he ever directed. So congratulations to him. I'm so happy for Gary Oldman for the spellbinding, historically gift-giving performance of Sir Winston Churchill in the film Darkest Hour. It reminded me so much of watching Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in Lincoln, that you really felt you were listening to that historical person. You were listening to Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln in that film as Abraham Lincoln in the film Lincoln, and you felt the same way with Gary Oldman as Sir Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour. A big congratulations, of course, to Meryl Streep on her record 21st nomination for performance as Katharine Graham in The Post, which is the story about the Washington Post and the New York Times releasing the Pentagon Papers in 1972, which was one of at that time caught the ire of the Nixon White House. I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm going to say a little more it's a really interesting. It's not like, I wouldn't say the greatest movie, but it definitely, when you have Tom Hanks, who I think got snubbed out of a nomination for his role as Ben Bradley, and then you have Meryl Streep together. It's such a powerhouse duo in one film. And Steven Spielberg, with his mastery behind the camera, you can't help but be in awe of this film and all the performances in that. And then Best Supporting Actor, I'm really happy for Willem Dafoe. It's the first time in 18 years he's been nominated for his role in the Florida Project, which is actually named after the Walt Disney operation that took place in Central Florida when Disney World was being built. And they tried to hide it out, but everybody knew it was them. Best Supporting Actress, Mary J. Blige, for her performance in Mudbound, which you can see it right now currently on Netflix. And Allison Janney for playing the mother that you wish you never, that thank God you never had in I, Tonya. It was just a transform. And then The Shape of Water with the most nominations this year. And just all these good films. But what I'm going to do in a few weeks, I'm going to be taping my Oscar show. And then towards the end of February, I think we'll have it out there, because I'm having an awesome director for it, Mr. Kenneth Graham, who always does his best every single week when we do the Blitz Zone and every show that we've done together since. And I'm so happy that he'll be directing this 7th Academy Awards special. When I get more information on the date and time, I'll let you know right away. For all the hardworking men and women at CTV, for Mr. Kenneth Graham behind the booth doing what he does best as always, for yours truly, Eric Rosen, this has been another episode of the Blitz Zone. We'll see you next week for the Super Bowl 52 special here on CTV. Good night, peace and love, Staten Island. Peace and love.